muzzle drips red, teeth bared, a life gone still. This is the African wild dog. For a century they paid to shoot it dead, yet nothing hunts better. 8 in 10, triple the lion. By the end, you'll defend it. The charge, a savage killer. Evidence now, 100 years, one official verdict, Lycaon pictus, a menace to erase. In colonial southern Africa, 5 shillings a head, a bounty unbroken from 1916 to 1977. Farmers called it a stock killer, hunters vermin. Shooting it stayed legal. The campaign worked. From 500,000, it crashed to 6,600. And still, the myth outlived the extermination. They say it hunts in merciless packs, tearing prey alive, so violent predators look away. Watch closely and see why the accusation feels so easy to believe. A pack of 10, 15, sometimes more, moves through the grass in coordinated silence. No roar, no warning, just the sudden explosive break into a run. Not one hunter, a single organism with dozens of legs, almost nothing escapes it. A greater kudu breaks cover. In seconds, the chase closes to nothing. This, they say, is where the true horror begins. Unlike the lion's bite to the throat, this kill is fast, chaotic, hard to watch. For generations, that difference has been read as cruelty. A killer without mercy, a method without honor. It's why farmers reached for rifles, why governments printed bounty posters, why an animal never once confirmed to kill a human became one of the continent's most persecuted predators. But a verdict built on revulsion is not one built on evidence. And the evidence, real, documented, inconvenient to the myth, tells a very different story. Before we reach it, look at the accused once more, exactly as the myth wants. Blood at the muzzle, ribs heaving, eyes fixed on the next kill. This is the image that got it shot on sight for 100 years. This is the image we are about to put on trial. The first charge is filed, that its kill is not hunting, it is savagery. The court now turns to the evidence. Decades of study contradict the myth. A lion's grip takes minutes. The African wild dog's method is faster, measured in seconds, not minutes. No gentler to watch, but by duration, shock, time to black out, a more merciful death. Chrysomia blowflies reach a kill within minutes, the same signal at every carnivore kill here. Below, dung beetles return nutrients to the soil that feeds the herds it's blamed for decimating. Not savagery, the oldest machinery on the savanna, and the dog, one of its best engines. Now look at what the myth never films. After a hunt, the pack does not simply feed, it shares. Adults bring up meat for pups too young to hunt, for the injured, the old. A pack member returning limping, favoring a torn shoulder, is not abandoned. It is fed first. Watch closely. A rhipicephalus tick, engorged after days in the fur, is gently groomed away by a packmate's teeth. Not aggression, care. The animal condemned as a savage killer runs one of the most cooperative societies alive. That's the first charge answered. Its kill isn't cruelty, it's efficiency, wrapped in mutual care. But the myth wasn't only about the kill. It asked what could kill like that, and whether something so effective is truly an underdog. Here's the charge nobody expects. This feared killer is mocked by rivals as a coward, a thief too weak to hold its kills. That accusation is about to meet its own reckoning. Because the numbers tell a story no competing predator on this continent can match. The court moves now to the hunt itself. Here is the statistic that should have silenced the myth decades ago. Across study after study, the African wild dog succeeds in roughly 8 of every 10 hunts it attempts. The lion succeeds in barely 1 hunt in 4. No solitary predator, not leopard nor cheetah, comes close. The secret isn't speed. The pack is a relay, not a chase. One presses, another takes over, again and again. Impala, waterbuck, wildebeest outrun one dog, never the pack. The lead peels off. A second closes unseen. Not chaos, coordination refined over hundreds of thousands of years, outperforming every big cat. So why, with this record, mocked as a coward, too weak to keep its kills? The cruelest irony. Africa's best hunter is also its most frequent victim. A hyena clan just muscles in. One lion's roar clears the pack. Up to half of every kill it makes is lost this way, stolen, not shared. Accused of terrorizing this place, it spends its life terrorized off its own dinner. Yet it endures, not by strength, but the cooperation that makes it lethal. One more piece of evidence the myth misreads, written directly on the animal's coat. No two individuals share the same pattern. Every blotch of black, tan, and white is as unique as a fingerprint. For generations, the mottled coat read as a mangy stray, proof of a sick dog. It is not sickness, it is identity. Researchers use these very patterns to recognize individual dogs across entire national parks. A natural registry written before any radio collar existed. The charge of disease, the charge of being lesser, feral, unworthy, both about to be overturned. What threatens its health is barely its own body, and mostly ours. Follow the pack now as the sun climbs and the hardest hours of the day settle over the grassland. This is when the accused disappears from most cameras, resting low to the ground. Saving strength, most predators simply do not need to save. But at a den hidden in an abandoned aardvark burrow, life continues at its own pace. Pups wrestling, adults standing guard. The entire pack organized around creatures too young to hunt. Here, in the quiet hours away from the chase, the deepest evidence is found. Not the killer, the caretaker. And the caretaking does not stop with the young. In this pack, breeding is usually restricted to a single dominant pair, but raising the young is never the job of two alone. Every adult babysits. Every adult defends. Every adult, when the hunters return, steps aside and lets the pups eat first, not fear, a hierarchy built on group survival. And it works. Litters here beat almost any canid. The cost shared by a whole society, not one mother. Remember the charge? A mangy mutt, no species. Geneticists confirmed it decades ago. The African wild dog split from the domestic dog's ancestor over 1 million years ago. Not feral, not a mongrel. Its own branch of the canid tree, found nowhere else. That diseased coat lets each dog be known on sight. The second charge of being lesser, feral, unworthy is dismissed. But there's a final charge, perhaps the cruelest inversion of all. That this hunted, mocked animal is somehow still the threat. Here is what the myth gets backwards. At the edge of nearly every wild dog range, villages keep dogs. Loyal, familiar, unaware what they carry. Rabies and canine distemper, carried silently by unvaccinated village dogs, can pass into a wild pack through one chance encounter. In constant close contact, an outbreak never stays with one. In as little as weeks, disease this way has wiped out whole packs, erasing in days what took a lifetime. Dawn returns, and the same vigilance turns to the next generation. Night falls over the grassland, and for a few hours the pack finally rests. Dawn returns, and the pack rises together. The same cooperation that lets them hunt also lets them heal and survive one more day in a world that spent a century erasing them. So let us return to where this trial began. The muzzle dripping red, teeth bared, a life gone still in the dust. Look at it again, now, with everything you know. Not a monster indulging cruelty, the most successful hunter on the continent, feeding a society that shares all it earns. Young, wounded, old. The charge was savagery. The evidence, survival, cooperation, and social care few predators match. For 100 years, we called this animal vermin and paid for its extermination. We reduced roughly 500,000 individuals to as few as 6,600. And then, for decades more, we called the animal the villain of that story. Today, the African wild dog is endangered. Fewer than 7,000 left, in fewer than 800 packs, across a fraction of its old range. And the threats that remain are, overwhelmingly, threats we created. Habitat lost to expansion, and disease carried in from animals we call our own best friends. The final verdict? It never threatened us. We threatened it for a century, and only now make it right. This February, in Zimbabwe's Matuzadona Park, 2 packs, 20 animals, were released into a landscape they'd not walked in decades. A small number against a species at the edge, but a start. The court has heard the evidence. Every charge, savagery, cowardice, disease, worthlessness, answered by the animal's own behavior. This is not a monster. It never was. It is Africa's most devoted hunter, and Africa's most devoted parent, wearing the same coat. The verdict of this court, not guilty. Vindicated, not by sentiment, but by the evidence itself. The painted wolf does not need our forgiveness. It never committed the crime. What it needs is far simpler: to be left the room to run. But every stolen kill tells its own story of injustice. The hyena stealing from this pack tonight carries its own reputation. Feared, mocked, called a witch's familiar. Its trial is next.